live stream as well. And for everybody who is late, that's their own fucking loss. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody on YouTube. Hello, everybody who is there, which is just Rock and Robin right now. But you're awesome for being here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to first of all start off with the people who are new here to give you a little bit of what we stand for here in the company in CNWPP. I'm not here to hold your hand. You can hold your own hand. I will not do that. It's a bit too far away from me. Most of you are from the other side of the world, so let's not get into that. Or you can ask your partner or whatever. I am not here to pity you. I know that a lot of people suffer. Everybody fucking suffers. And it's harsh in this world. And the people who are here, who are grinding now, are fucking awesome. Believe me, it's 10 p.m. for me. I'm gonna be here until 1 a.m. at the very least. It's gonna be probably a bit later even. So I don't pity people who have no time. I have a kid as well. The kid is 4 years old. Why should I have pity for people who have kids? I mean, it's just logical that I am not very compassionate for this type of stuff. Why do I say this? Because this is a fucking harsh world. This is a really, really harsh world. I'm going to. Holy crap. Sorry about that, Ishan. There we go. That's better. So yeah, I say that because this is a hyper, hyper competitive world. And in this world, and I'm sorry, can you guys please mute yourself for a second? There we go. So in this hyper-competitive world, you're fighting against rats like me. We are basically morons who have no work ethic. We don't stop. Literally, like I said, it's gonna be 1 a.m. until I finish, and I work the 40-hour work week just like everybody else. On top of everything I do, I just met with my people, Marius. I just brought like a bunch of things in order for some other stuff that we need to do, but today we're going to talk about API hacking, and API hacking is hard. It's difficult. It's not as difficult as you might think, but it's more difficult than people seem to think. Why is it so difficult? Because there's a lot of complexity in the architecture of APIs. So an API is just an application programming interface. That is simple, right? You have an application. Let's say that you want another application to talk with that application, like you want an application to offer the weather, and you want one application to grab the weather. To grab the weather, we need an API. It's simple. In essence, it's real fucking simple, but it gets difficult real fast, and the complexity all comes in from the different architectures, especially with microservices and micro APIs, making a big rise. We used to have this monolith of an API gateway. That's also something people often don't understand what an API gateway is. I'm not going to bother you with those complexities. I don't want you to learn that for CNWPP, but I will expect you to show the fuck up and to have at least a common understanding of how you communicate with an API. So today we're going to talk about what APIs are, how you can hack them, and I've prepared some labs for you with Postman that we're going to do. If you guys have questions, please just type them in the chat. I will read them during the exercises. And I would also like to just make once again clear that I do expect cooperation. I expect exercises. I'm going to do some explanation, but you guys are here to work as well. If you wanted to just listen to a professor talk, you'd go to university, but I am not a very big proponent of the education system as is. My methodology is more practical. I expect you guys to make exercises as well, to do this shit with me. I'm not gonna grind here alone. It's very late for me as well again. So thank you very much for showing up. Let's get right into it, shall we? I'm going to remove that image from the YouTube live stream. There we go, so people can see. And I've prepared some notes as well. These are notes for a 3-day bootcamp that we were preparing, but I'm going to be using them for our presentation as well. We've already given a bit of an overview of what we're going to talk about. Let's define APIs once again. If we need two applications to talk to each other, they're going to talk through APIs, application programming interfaces. It's your bridge between software applications. Of course, we know how important APIs are these days because it seems like software and communication with each other is very, very prevalent. Like, for example, if I offer a ticketing system, I want to offer an API as well. If I want to communicate with AI, I can do it through their playground and through Chat API for OpenAI, but I can also just do it through a few API calls. That makes it easier for me to automate my workflow. Hugging Face is a basically a collection of artificial, well, it's a spark of AGI, but it collects different types of AI together. How do you guess it does that? Yep, it makes API calls. So the role of APIs in modern software development cannot be underestimated. It's really important that we then also learn how to pen test these things properly, because there is no API testing guide like there is a mobile security testing guide or a web security testing guide or even PTES or a like any type of methodology. We don't have that for APIs. That means that you're on your fucking own. And that's hardcore shit. Believe me, friends. Like when we tested APIs for the first time, we had the OWASP API to fall back on, and you have some books like Corey Taylor's. No, what am I saying? Corey Taylor. That is Slipknot. Corey Ball, of course. Corey Ball's API testing book, but in my opinion, it is pretty basic and it goes over the OWASP API top 10 with some tools on how to test it. It's good, don't get me wrong, but for some more advanced shit, you will have to figure that out on your own. And OWASP is pretty vague with their definitions, as you might imagine. Security misconfiguration in my book is fucked up. I will not expect you to learn the OWASP 2023 release candidate because it's just that. It's a release candidate. If it's full on integrated, we will integrate it in CNWPP as well, of course. But for now, 2019 is perfectly fine. Why do we want those APIs? Of course, interoperability between different applications. It's important that we keep that in mind. Those integrations between applications need to go smoothly. We don't want to have a human sitting in between. We want to have that bridge automatic. So it's really good to have APIs that are exposing information, and then we can also control what information to expose, and we have greater modular control over the security of those APIs as well. Code reusability is a big one as well because we can just make API calls and we don't have to implement that code everywhere. But of course, that is the same as with classes and like just programming in general. Reusability is important there. What type of APIs do we have? We speak sometimes of REST versus SOAP APIs. You can't really compare it that way. REST is a protocol, SOAP is not a protocol. REST stands for representational sorry, it's the other way around. What the fuck am I saying? SOAP is a protocol, REST is not a protocol. REST stands for representational state transfer. So your state of your objects get carried through your entire application or through API calls, whereas SOAP is simple object access protocol. There is no statefulness there in GraphQL is also a big one. It's a version of NoSQL where we need to make GraphQL connections and interact with GraphQL. I'm not going to focus on that specifically. I think that goes a bit too deep for today. REST APIs, on the other hand, versus SOAP APIs. I will explain the principles a little bit of both, but again, I'm not going to ask you that do that on the exam. You're probably going to get just presented an API, and then it's up to you to hack it. Whether that's REST or SOAP, that doesn't matter. If we talk about REST APIs, we have our standard HTTP methods, and today's APIs will mostly be REST APIs. Your get, post, put, delete, it is stateless communication in this case, versus your SOAP APIs, where it's usually XML based, which we are often not going to do. And it uses WSDL. If you haven't heard of that, that is Web Service Description Language, and it describes what your XMLs should look like. It contains an envelope, a header, and a body structure in that XML, and that is usually how you communicate with SOAP APIs. And with GraphQL, it's a query language. I'm not going to go too deep into it. But what I will talk about, though, is the difference between JSON and XML, because we do often see these two being used, JSON or XML, often. So it's important that you know what they look like. I'm not going to talk about that here. That's a bit too basic. But it's important that you recognize what it looks like and that you're able to, of course, adapt it to your needs. For API security, when we talk about API security, I would refer you to the API security design practices, best practices there. OWASP has a great guide on securing APIs, but not really on testing them fully. So those are some good references there, but I suggest that we just go deeper into those APIs themselves and into that API security, because now we're going to talk about that OWASP API top 10. But first, why does it matter? I don't think I have to convince anybody watching today why API security is important. APIs are used as a gateway for sensitive data and functionality, and there's a growing reliance on APIs in our modern applications. We've said that before. And there is also an increasing number of API issues because often front end will be better protected, but APIs might still show issues. It's a little bit harder to track those sometimes as well. What you also have with API security is that the more complex your architecture becomes, the harder it becomes to properly implement security on API levels. Let's say that you have an authorization token, for example, and you have different microservices composing of a functionality. Well, your authorization token will have to get passed in between those microservices properly. So the more complex your architecture, the harder it is to actually adhere to this. Some API vulnerabilities that are often touted are injection vulnerabilities, authentication and authorization flaws. You will also see that in the OWASP top 10 regularly. There are different types of broken authorization and different broken authentication, and also data exposure risks are often a big problem because you might not always see excessive data exposure in the front end, but your APIs might still be returning it. Now, when we talk about the OWASP API Security Top 10, it's a great project, but it's a top 10 vulnerability categories. Categories. It's important that you understand that word because it consists of multiple vulnerabilities per category. So you already have a much better guide, but also that top 10 is important there because the top 10 vulnerability categories that existed in 2019 or 2023, depending on what list you go by. It's a brief overview. There are mitigation strategies as well to a degree, but of course it is still pretty limited in the grand scope of things. Let's talk about broken object level authorization first. What are we talking about here? So the name says it all. Broken object level authorization, meaning you have access to objects that you should not have access to. We'll see some labs later about that as well. But let's say, for example, that you should not have access to the user object of different users. Well, if you can't see them through manipulation of URLs, we're talking about broken object level authorization. Broken on the object level and authorization, you're authorized or not to see this record. Often touted as IDOR as well, by the way. Then you have broken user authentication. This is different than authorization because this is logging in. If there are problems logging in, that is in this category, but there is very broad that category, so we need to take that into account. Excessive data exposure is a big one because this is often unseen and it goes by unseen. Because, for example, let's say that you have an application that shows you your credit card. It's always going to show you stars and then the last four digits of your credit card. But what if that's just done in front end, but actually the API shows the full data of that credit card? That's excessive data, but that's exceptionally hard to catch because you will have to tell the application what data is sensitive and what data is not. That's very hard to do. I mean, we can't even keep up with documentation. How are we going to keep up with telling the system what data is sensitive and what is not? Come on, give me a fucking break. Next up, lack of resource and rate limiting. Credential stuffing. Ever heard of that? That is where they take your leaked credentials from a different website and they try it on the website itself. For example, you have a leak somewhere and they try it on hexpert.com with your username and password because people have the habit of using the same password over and over again. So that's an issue, of course, but that's only possible if you don't have proper rate limiting on your login endpoints. Otherwise, you would shut somebody out after too many failed login attempts. Other hand, it's also possible for scalpers, for example, to scalp tickets from you. And they can scalp them because they can make request after request after request, seeing if it's available or not. Scalpers will use this vulnerability as well. If we talk about broken function level authorization, yeah, I told you it gets fucking confusing. Broken function level authorization is at the function level. So if there's a function that I can abuse, which I shouldn't have access to, but I have access to anyway, that is this vulnerability. The difference is object versus function. I hope that makes sense. A function can cover multiple objects. An object can be in multiple functions. So keep your head in the game. We're not there yet. Let's talk about mass assignment. I make an object, user. User has a user type, user or user type admin. The mass assignment vulnerability allows you to change your user type because we often auto-generate getters and setters. And if we generate a getter and a setter, we might generate one for user type as well. That can be a big problem because if we do that, if we generate a getter and a setter for user type, and the user is able to change their user type to admin, that's a big, huge problem. That's a red flag, of course. That's just one example. You can also take the example of my bug bounty journey before, where one of the issues was that you could change your account type from venue to reseller and reseller to venue. You might think, big deal, whoopity fucking do, but that was a difference of 10x. Difference of 500 euros per account versus 5,000. So yeah, big whoopity do indeed. I saved them a lot of money. That is a mass assignment exploit. Security misconfiguration. Could you be any broader than this? I think you would have to try very hard. This is a big one, but of course they're usually talking about their server security misconfigurations. That's a problem. But it's a broad topic. It's in general a broad topic. That's what I would say here. Injection. Injection attacks can consist of multiple types of injections. So here we can have, for example, SQL injection, command injection, XML injection. We can have JSON injection. We can have NoSQL injection. There are many, many types of injections available, and we have to really take into consideration that this is a broad, broad category. Injection can be very big. Most people know SQL injection, maybe command injection, but that's far where it stops for some people. And it's important to realize that this is a broad category. There are many types of injections possible that we need to take into account. Improper asset management. Has anybody ever heard of a ghost API before? Ghost API, if you don't know, is basically an API that the developer makes and is floating somewhere around there in production. So let's say that I create an API and I do this for testing and it gets in production, but I forget about it. Nobody even knows about it anymore. That's a big problem. because then we have no idea what assets we have floating around in what environment and at what version they are running. We have to have a great overview of what we have in which environment because each thing that is exposed to the internet or an external network could potentially pose a vulnerability. So we need impeccable, proper asset management and insufficient logging and monitoring. We see this at basically every company. It's the same fucking thing. They forget to log. If they log, they don't monitor. If they monitor, they don't alert. And if they do alert, it's not on all of the critical application flows, such as all of the critical transactions, such as buying shit, selling shit, using coupons, logging in. These things should not only be logged, monitored, but they should be traceable. And this is some advice that you can give your client, which makes you better than everybody else, because this is often forgotten. And what we usually do is we do our pen test, and then we ask our client, now, what did you see? What did you see in your logs? Did you have any alerts go off? And what about monitoring? And usually they will be, oh, we didn't really watch that. And then they will be, yeah, they will be pressed with their nose in the fact that what we say in Dutch. Of course, I don't need to tell you about the impact. It can be catastrophic if you have a big security risk. It can be quite catastrophic. So yeah, let's have a little bit of a demo of Postman. Um, 1 second. My kid is still up. It's like 11 p.m. It drives me crazy sometimes. So yeah, come fucking complaining to me that you have a kid. I'll laugh you right in your face. Um, we have Postman. Postman, let's do a bit of a demo for that. Um, we need to be able to use tools to test our APIs properly as well. I'm sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Alright, so Postman. Jesus Christ. Yeah, before you have kids, think twice, my friend. Think fucking 10 times if you have to. It's not a bad idea. Where is my... There we go. So, Postman, our topic. I'm going to use my points so I don't forget anything that's going to be important. What is Postman? It's a tool for testing APIs. Why is it such an important tool? Because you can easily share your workspace with coworkers, up to 3 people, including you, so 2 other people, in the free version, but in the paid version, that can be unlimited with your team, of course. What is Postman also good for? Monitoring. You can run API monitors. You can run them every X hours or on a certain schedule. And it's also great for, of course, adjusting just API requests, building API requests, importing certain API specifications, and then showing you those API specifications. But we'll get more into that later. Let's talk about some key features. API request building. So if we talk to an API, we have a request. Remember, REST or SOAP, and we have to do that over. We have to build that. We have to make, for example, a GET request with our Postman tool. Um, that is one of the big features here, but also that you can easily work with variables that can have a different scope. A scope such as your collection of APIs, a scope such as your whole workspace, a scope such as your request itself. So scope is very important here. Response visualization also important, and validation. You can write pre-request tests that execute. You can write post-request tests that execute. And it's that test, but basically what you can do, for example, is you can make an API request, and then you can extract the authorization headers from it, and then from that you can put them into a variable that you can use later on. Wat hè? Wat is er? Ik ben... Damn it. So yeah, damn it. So yeah, for automated testing, this is also a great tool for collaboration features. Once again, you can easily share your workspaces with other people, and mock servers and API monitoring as well. That's something you can also do, mocking your APIs in there. We're not going to look at that feature too much, neither the API monitoring. You can offer this to your clients, of course, but we are not going to dig too deep into this one. Now, downloading Postman, you can do that with the browser extension, but that is deprecated, so it is recommended that you just download it from download Postman. Here you can see this link. It started for free, so I'm going to send this to everybody in the channel here and also here in the live stream. I've built some targets, so we will be hacking those. Feel free to download Postman while I give a bit of an explanation about it. We're going to hack some APIs that I've built, and if we have some time, we're also going to look at Crappy and Vampy potentially as well. So I hope you guys are ready for that. If you download Postman, I'm going to remove everything that I have in here for now because I don't need this. Let's remove this as well. And we don't need this either. I'm just going to remove everything so I have exactly the same as you guys when you get started. Now, I am not logged in. You can log in, of course. I don't want to log in right now. So Vampy is well gone. There we go. This is the home screen that you will usually see. Here we have those collections that we talked about, and collections are, as the name says it, it's a collection of API requests. This can be important because, for example, you can make an API request to log in, you can extract the authorization headers, and then you can do the request, the rest of the requests. You can put that into a monitor, and bam, you have like a health monitor setup that you can use in a production environment to see if a service is on or offline. But for now, we're just going to make a basic collection. So I will do that, all of that later. Remember those environments that we were talking about? We can set up environments as well. And this is an important one, those environments, because there we go. Let's go to environments and let's create one. So we might often, what we see these days in software development is a software development life cycle. Where we see there is we often have different servers. I think it's called DTAP, Development, Testing, Acceptance, and Production. Often those are standard, but you will sometimes see variations of those as well. It's a possibility, of course. Now I'm just going to say this is my test environment, and on your environment you can have different URL variables, such as URL, for example. You can see here that we have an initial value and we have a current value. Now my URL, I will share that with you later. But that initial value is the value that you set it up with, and you can change it throughout your test, but you can then change a few of these variables, and then you can persist all or reset all. Persisting all means writing them from the current to the initial values. If you want to write from the initial values to the current values, you of course reset every single one of them. But this is one of the variables that you often see in an environment. You will also see different users for an environment, for example. Sometimes every single API microservice has its own API endpoint as well. So you have to take that into account. Um, and of course, port is also sometimes important there. So for this environment, I'm not going to set it up fully right now, but I will come back to this. We can also make a collection here, and in this collection we can give it a name. We can choose what authorization is applicable to that collection, and we can do pre-request scripts, tests, and we have variables based on a collection. We can also set up mock servers here and monitors and a history of requests that we are doing. But right now, I'm just going to start up an API that I've written. So let's go to the OWASP API top 10 directory 2019. And here we have a few Python scripts. So we will do A01. I have to start it up with Python 3 though. I cannot forget that. A01. And this is something that we have talked about before. Now I will put the URLs in all of the chats as well, so you guys can join me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to definitely I will share those sheets as well with you guys later on. But for now, so we have Postman installed. We're going to create a little bit of a collection. This will be, let's call it OWASP API Top 10 2019. And here we're going to add a request in. So we're going to add a request in it. If I click add request, I might zoom in a bit. There we go, then it's easier to see. Here I have a get, and remember that we had those variables that we can use. Those variables we can set on our environment. We can set them, and if we set them on the environment, we have to save, by the way. This can be our initial value. So this is our initial value. Let's put that in here as well, and let's save this. So in our request as well, we can make a request, just a get request to this URL. Now nothing has been found. Why is that? If I look in the code, that is because there's nothing on the slash path. That's the problem. We do have a slash login though. So if we go on this URL, so let's just click it right here and we go to slash login. It says method not allowed. Now why is that? Because it only takes a post method right here. So for this post method, I need to change something in here. I need to say post, and here in Postman, now I can make a post to that slash login. But I need something in the body, foreign data. I need foreign data in the body. And if I look at what is expected from the code itself, it expects a username. Now, how will you know this? We will get back to that later through API documentation usually. But let's look at what users we can have. So we have user 1, user 2, and admin. Let's just try user 1. User 1 and send that off. And we have a response logged in successfully with a user ID. We can also log in with the admin ID, logged in successfully. So this is not the issue, but I do want you to take some time to set this up. So go download Postman if you haven't already, and then create a new collection. And in that collection, I want you to get a variable going with the, oh, sorry, in that environment. So I want you to first create a new environment. If you want, I can type this down as well, of course. So I want you to create an env. I want you to add a variable URL. The URL should be this. And then I want you to add a new collection. Change env to test. I'm going to give you a few minutes for this, by the way, but afterwards we're going to do this once more, and then we have the recordings, of course. And then I would like you to make a post request to this. Post request with form data username equals user1 or admin. I should be able to finish it for CNWPP related stuff yet. That shouldn't be a problem. For CNWPP related, we should definitely be able to finish. For anything else, we are also planning to host a 5-day API bootcamp. So if you're interested, keep an eye on the channel, and we will announce that. Of course, that's not going to be free. What am I saying? A 3-day bootcamp, which is 3 hours every day, which is much more intense than this even. There we're really going to go deep into the OWASP API top 10 2019, 2023. We're going to go into testing with different tools, what APIs are more specifically. Hello, my friends. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you're doing well. Oh, I forgot. I should also copy this and paste this in here, of course. So let's give you guys a few minutes for that. Let's put a timer on screen. That shouldn't take you too long, right? 10 minutes should be more than enough. Hope you all had a good day, by the way. Mine was a bit busy. And like somebody has decided to start all of the jobs in production at the very exact same time. If you're watching this, Fabio, don't run the jobs. Please don't run the fucking jobs. Let them run on their own. They're not going to be very happy if you do that again. I'm not gonna be happy if you fucking do that again. I'll come find you. Jesus. So yeah, the problem was that every user was like suddenly fucked up, and yeah, it got into some real trouble because every time a job failed in production, a P1 was generated, and there were like 10 jobs failing, so we had 10 managers complaining. Let's see if we have any questions. Hello, friends. Hello, hello, hello. I have no idea what Belleza Mano is, Andre. I'm sorry. This bootcamp will last for another 2 hours and 20 minutes, and then I'm off to bed because I'm fucking tired. Hello, hello, friends. Thank you so much, Ali. I really appreciate all the love. Hello, Marcos. Good to have you here as well. No problem, Marcos. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining as well, everybody else. Johan. That's Johan Garcia, right? And David, what target? Well, we have our own APIs. I'm doing good, I'm doing good. And yes, we will send you those API sheets. Marius, if you're watching, please remind me to send on those those sheets. Yeah, I'm still learning JavaScript. I'm no probably pro like you one day, my senpai. I am not pro by any stretch of the imagination, my friend. It is super kind that you think I am very, very good at this shit. But I don't know, I'm just a curious rat. There are people out there, like, there was this one guy who I met who was working on the V station, and the guy was so fucking good at his job. Like, he would bang out Python code faster than ChatGPT can. No joke. If you want, yeah, Andre, since you guys are watching, how about this? Watch for another hour and then remind me again, and then I'll throw out the Udemy code for you, my friends. Orgus, you're hired. You didn't see that coming, did you? How? What are you gonna do about it? Gonna go fucking to a union? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, you can't fucking quit. Remember, you signed a contract forever. You shouldn't have signed away your soul, bro. I told you to not do that, but yeah, you wouldn't fucking listen. Orgus, are you trying to get us demonetized? Or no, no, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. If you guys have questions, by the way, don't hesitate to ask. The fact that you are here and that you are participating is something that I can only admire. Rock and roll has my soul. You guys are fucking awesome, by the way. Do you know that? How many of you are there already? Let me know through the chat. Just type a Y or something. I just want to know how far you guys are. And if you have questions, once again, please ask. I would not like you guys going away with more questions than you came here. I know we're all dying to hear this question. Is Orgus fired? Yes. Yes, he's fired. I promise. When I finish the basics of bug bounty, I pick one exercise and master it, then move to another. What do you think? I think it's a horrible idea because you can never master a vulnerability. And I know it sounds a little bit discouraging, but I think a better idea would be to get a basic understanding of most vulnerability types and then just learn what parameters are. Because I'm going to give you guys a tip here. One big ass tip that you guys are probably never going to forget. At least if you're smart. My friends, I'm bringing you to the water. Fucking drink, for fuck's sake. This is something that you need to remember very carefully. You're practicing on practice labs that are very small in functionality. A big application is big. Companies don't pay 12 fucking developers to make a tiny application that can return some data. They make big APIs, big microservices. So learn to think, how am I going to exploit this? What exactly am I going to do to get my head start here, my advantage? Learn that. How to breach cloud servers to steal data? Well, cloud is a big one, of course. It's going to be much bigger in the future, even for cloud. It's going to be important that you actually learn to properly hack cloud. You have to learn how to configure it. So what I would say is just get an AWS account. It's free. You can configure free shit there. Just look at it because it's complicated as can be. It's not something that can easily be explained in a few sentences, I'm afraid. Of course, Ali. Of course I am. I think there are more people in here. Describe the feeling of getting paid for finding a bug bounty. It's better than sex. I'm not even gonna fucking lie, dude. When you're able to get money for hacking something, and it's legal, and it's fun, and it's fucking better than you're better than everybody else. That's what you feel like. I beat you. I beat you. That's what you fucking feel like. It's amazing. Yeah, don't tell Orgus that people get paid for working. Like, just tell him that everybody works for free. That's the best thing you can do for me. Thank you. Hey, how are you doing, Bijoy? Thank you for joining us. I think most people are at this point right now. Let's see, do we have any chats right here? Hey, Anon guy, how are you doing, Mr. Pepper the Frog? I love that image. Pepper the Clown. I'm going to stop the timer here. If you're not completely there, fucking tough luck. Yeah, you can watch the recording. I'm going to move forward, and if you hate my teaching style, welcome to the thexssrat. This is just how I roll. Now we are going to execute a request to a microservice. What am I saying? To URL that's also open on here, but this is a GET request, and here we can see to get the user information. We can copy this request even. We can name this request to login for A01, and then we can duplicate it. Whoop, there we go. And here we can say get users for A01, and we are going to do a get request to this, and then it requests a user ID. So let's just do that. Here we see user information. Am I authorized to do this? Am I authenticated? Yes. Am I authenticated? Am I authorized to do this? No. Am I authenticated? Even funny enough, not really. It says that I logged in successfully, but where am I passing my authentication headers? My authorization headers, I should say. Jesus, I always get the fucking mixed up. Authorization headers aren't passed anywhere, and that's a big fuck up on my part if I were to develop this for production. But luckily enough, I'm a fucking awesome developer. I don't make any mistakes ever at all. I'm perfect in that way. But yeah, a stupid developer would do something along these lines, not even secure it properly and give back information on an endpoint that should not have information enabled. So let's go to the next one, because if you're not completely there yet, that's okay. We have more labs for you. You didn't think that I was going to leave you empty-handed, did you? Let's go to Python 3 and let's go to Python 2. What am I doing? Hoo-hoo, silly me. E02. Let's run that shit. So we have it running on port 5000 again. It seems to be the same stuff, but now I'm just going to show you the code. So in here, you see exactly what the vulnerability is, right? So we have usernames, we have passwords right here. Username, password. We see that we have a route slash login that requires a post. And we can see here if user here, user equals you, username is that, and password is that, and user equals you. So we have broken authentication here. Why? Because this username and this password is weak. Again, I can show you the exact code. Now I'm gonna be a dick about it. Abuse it. Go ahead, it's running. I dare you. Take 10 minutes. If you're so good at API hacking, then show me. It's funny how I roll, right? I don't really hold your hand like I say. I really don't think it's a good idea. You have all the information that you need. You have all the information you need on screen even. I will show you how to abuse this, by the way, so don't worry too much about it. Back there. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to post it in here. No, I thought so. It's not big enough. Good night, Orgis. Thanks for being here. You're fired and have a good night. I'm going to show the code on screen for a few more moments so people can actually see what they have to do. It's not difficult at all. Nothing that we do here is difficult, is it? Of course not, Uncle Rat. We do easy shit all the time. I'm kidding, of course, I'm kidding. I know how difficult this is. Don't underestimate yourself for doing this because you're sitting here while other people are sitting in the sofa watching Netflix, so I'm proud of you. I really am. I don't mind people relaxing, don't get me wrong, but once again, you are competing with morons like me who don't have a sense of stopping. We don't fucking stop, and you might think I'm joking, but you can ask anybody who has worked with me here. Like, You can see it, fucking 11 a.m., 11 p.m. I've been working since 7 a.m. this morning, and it's not because I just don't know what else to do. I'm bored. I'm bored as shit with gaming. I don't like gaming. I like programming. I like making labs. I like bothering you guys with annoying tasks. I like seeing you suffer. That's fucking awesome. And you know it's even worse in bug bounties, right? It's fucking harsh. But if you can do API pen testing, I can promise you that you can pretty much do any type of pen testing that you set your mind towards because you have very platform specific exploits such as mobile. But mobiles, guess what they communicate with? Yep, you guessed it, an API. What does a website communicate with? Often APIs. What does IoT communicate with? APIs. What do APIs communicate with? APIs. So yeah, it's a fucking win-win-win-win-win for everybody. Good job that you are here. Really, really proud of you, friends. You're doing awesome. And believe me, I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy at all. Making time, venturing out to do things that you're not used to, that are unknown to you, it can be scary even. And not scary in the sense of, ooh, ghosts, I'm so scared, but scary in the sense that you're stepping out of your comfort zone. So, yeah, do take enough steps. Don't be afraid to fall flat on your face because we all did it and we all learned from it. And that's how we grew. And I don't give a shit about your talent in this room. And that might sound fucked up, but I really don't because I'm solidly convinced that people who work extremely hard are always going to be better than the people who just use their talent and sit on it for the rest of their lives. Like, it's a fucking waste. It's a horrible waste. And I think that eventually you will be lapped by the person who does put in the work. I think you can achieve everything that you put your mind to, but you need to set your own limits. And I am perfectly fine with you sitting there and watching Netflix. Once again, that's you who makes that decision. I'm not going to make that call for you, but I do think that a lot of people take maybe a little bit too much relaxation time. I don't remember the old days describing people sitting in front of their fires for hours on end, telling, like, yeah, it does happen. In the older days, you have these stories of big feasts and shit like that, but dude, these people would be as fallen asleep by 11 p.m. because they would be drunk as shit. And then the next day, they would get fucking plowed a field in the morning. And we're sitting here sometimes complaining that we don't have enough time while we sit here and watch sports all weekend and just fuck about. Yeah, give me a break. That being said, they do take good care of your mental health, though. It's like your only brain you have. You can't exchange it. Believe me, I tried. I was like, bitch, please forgive me a broken autistic ADHD ridden brain. Give me a different one. What the fuck? I want warranty. But they were like, nah, sorry, that passed like the first year. You only have 1 year's worth of warranty, by the way. But what baby knows by year one if they want another brain or not? I know, right? Fucking ridiculous, these policies these days. Enough bullshitting. Let's abuse this. Let's try to see if we can abuse this. Now, real quick, I'm going to show this because it's exactly the same as this, but invalid username or password. Why is that? Because we don't have a password in there even. That's going to be problem one, and I think the password was admin123 logged in successfully. Look at that shit. I'm an abuser. I'm an exploiter. Don't fucking quote me on that. So yeah, let's read some of the chats. All you guys try to emulate that if you want to, of course. Let's see what kind of questions we have. Can you please explain some basics of API, how it works? Definitely, my friend. So let me show you the code. So here we have a Flask API. Flask is a Python module that can set up APIs. Now let's say that I want you to be able to communicate with my API here. I can open that on a specific port. An API consists of routes. Those routes in this case are route slash login, which allows for different methods because I'm giving you a RESTful API, not a SOAP API. You can also see that by me not requesting any XML being requested. I'm using JSON, I'm using form data, so it's different. Now, we will talk more about API documentation and how to identify this specifically, and also some brute forcing and tampering and what have you not. But for now, it's just important that you know how to make that API request. So in here we can see that we have that route to slash login with a method post. This user data is just an array of user data, as the name says, and here it's going to grab your request, grab your username, grab your password, and it's going to say if your username and password is the password, if your username is one of those usernames and your password is password, then the user gets put in here. And if user is going to return successfully logged in with your user ID. The problem here is it's broken authentication, authorization, broken authentication. So here we have very weak passwords that belongs to this category. I hope that's clear. If you have questions, don't specific ones, don't hesitate to ask. Trying to create a website with user and password with this language, HTML, JS, PHP, MySQL, to understand things and try to break it and play with security after I finish the language. What do you think? I love it, Amo. You guys take an example of Amo because that is what it's done, how it's done. That's how I learn my exploits very, very, very deeply. I create these labs for you on labs.hexpert.com. I should say labs.hexpert.com. And here there's a bunch of labs that you can exploit. But we're not going to focus too much on that today. I want to focus more on the API pen testing specifically. So if you have questions about that, don't hesitate to ask. But great example, Amo. Hey uncle, I have done some cybersecurity that I'm pretty sure good. I'm pretty good at web CTFs, but I fail every time at bug bounties. Probably because my mindset is CTF is target is vulnerable. Yep, indeed, you hit the nail on the head there, my friend. Well, on bug bounties, I thought I may be wasting my time on this feature as it might not be vulnerable, and that's why I can't manage time and result in me stopping progress. And any advice? Advice for you bug bounty hunters out there. Stop thinking of it as bug bounty hunting. Why am I saying that? I think it's a ridiculous name because you're not hunting for bugs, you're testing functionality. Look at it that way. Try to exhaustively test functionality. Bug bounty hunters, this is my best tip I can give you. Try to exhaustively test functionalities. Every single parameter should be exhaustively tested. I hope that makes sense. When you're done, we can hack the site, and if we find a bug bounty, would you pay us? That's a good one, Andre. um, hey, Ruchel, good to have you here as well. We're born for this field. We are, my friend. We never fucking surrender. As a developer, I thought my world was big. Now that I discovered the bug bounty, I understand that there's a universe of languages and opportunities and technology stacks, Andre. Technology stacks. Different combinations of technologies being used. That's also a big one. But yeah, good that you see that. It's important. Great one. Just got here. This is very over my head a little, but I want to learn. Well, look at it from the beginning, Nacho. There's some really great tips in here, if I say so myself. Let's see. I'm learning JavaScript. Sometimes I'm stuck in things 3 days, and I hate my life. Dude, just keep grinding. Keep on grinding. Keep on grinding. That's the only thing I can tell you, because you will never get better if you surrender. I'm also planning to start JS. JS is a great one. If you want cross-site scripting, check my channel for cross-site scripting and keep an eye on the Twitter for cross-site scripting boot camps. 3 days of pure cross-site scripting madness, my friends. Good luck on that, by the way. Oh, I hacked YouTube API key by mistake. Lol, I need to be careful and change my IP to my local IP. I hacked YouTube API by mistake. Yeah. Would you save any tooltips to get past honeypot from the servers? Um, well, not really. I'm not really the right guy for that. Sorry, Andre. But there are undoubtedly experts in my following which have advice for you there. I will ask it in a tweet later on. I'm so happy that you are here, Amo. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that everybody's here. Just trying to hack my poor site. Bro. Holy crap. There we go. Sorry about that. Um, if I mute you, by the way, it's because I have a lot of reverb and I hear myself very, very clearly, and it's confusing for me. We will have time for Q&A after the session, by the way, so don't worry about that. My man, hack my site, hack this site. There's like a shit ton of websites on here, smaller little websites like this, where you can get vulnerabilities like business logic exploits. And you know how this is built? You would think that there's a database behind this, right? Because it's remember shit, but it's actually all in session. There's in PHP a session variable, and that's where all of this is saved. So it's different for you and then for me. Everybody gets their own labs, and it's the same website. That's how we built their labs, some of them at least. And some of them are just stateless as well. But yeah, hack my site, yeah, damn, well, hack my fucking poor site. I have enough shit to hack if you want. Oh man, I love this crap. I'm happy to, Andre. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you as well, Jeff. So let's move on to the next one. We are going to start the next one. If you have questions from here, let's see, it's run to 40. Good night, unknown. If you have questions here, don't hesitate to ask them in the chat as well. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? The next possible exploit that we have can be AO3. Now, do you remember what AO3 was? Excessive data exposure. Again, I'm going to do you guys a solid and I'm going to give you the code. Just exploit it for me. Aren't I fucking awesome? There we go. It's not hard. You have only one route slash student. And remember what I said about these routes. Those are basically your routes. Look at the method that it accepts and just craft a request for it. It's simple as can be. If you want to see the code itself, by the way, you can always go to API Labs. Let's just paste it in here for you. And we have this one right here. And here is all of the code that we are talking about right now is AO3. And that's what I mean. With the red, you get so much more than just your average YouTube video. You get your labs that are always available 24/7 for you, my friends. Unless Uncle Red forgets to update his credit card information again, then it's not really 24/7 anymore. I'm a moron. Can you share your IP? I just want to test if your network is secure. Please open port 6666. 666666666. Yeah, sure. Give me a second, bro. I will share my IP with you. Let's do an Albanian one. Prepared, so challenge show am I. Let's see. Let's end my surf. If you guys in the chat have questions, don't hesitate to ask me. I'm going to show you how this is done because it's not a super hard one. Again, we only have one real URL in here. So if we go back to the API code itself, I think that was open in here. We have a route for a tree excessive data exposure. We can go /user and we can grab some user information. So now I need to open this first, of course. I'm a moron sometimes. So we need to go Python 3.03. So if you are unable to exploit this, A03. That was normal. Now you should be able to though. /user/1, for example. We see method not allowed because we're trying post, we try get, and we get their password, including their role email. This is of course excessive user information. We should never be returned their password. And on top of all, this is also a security violation because the password is returned unencrypted to us. I hope that one is clear, my friends. Not a super difficult one either. I think we will move on to the next section now. Now we're going to not do A4, we're going to go directly to A5. Now why is that? Because A4 is, I believe, let me grab the API top 10 article again. So that was in here, yep. In here, the API top 10. If we can see, O4 is lack of resource and rate limiting. That is across every single API that we have. There is basically no rate limiting. I would prefer it if you don't try to exploit this on Hexpert. Why? Because it can bring down our servers. That's why I would prefer it if you don't fuck up my servers. Thank you very much. If you do, you'll probably get IP banned. And you can switch IPs, but you can also mag ban you. We have several ways of distinguishing your traffic, but just don't fuck it up, please. We do this for free, so I think it's not too much to ask. Let's move on to broken function level authorization. Though, and once again, I'm going to show you that code that we have right here. Did I paste the wrong code in here? Probably. Yep, that's okay. But in here, oh my god, I am fucking on a roll today. Let's copy the link to this in the chat. So we have, there we go. Yep, we should be back now. Switching IPs is indeed not a great idea with Surfshark. So let's open the A5. Here we have a /students endpoint, as we can see. /students only has a get method, so it should be real simple. Now it's going to simulate a token right here. It's going to request a token, but it's not going to give a shit about that token. So if we do a get for that students, by now you should be pretty well versed in this. Get for /students, we can see that we can just grab all of their students. We have access to a function, broken function level authorization. We have authorization where we should not have on a specific function. Even without this, by the way, since it's a get variable or a get request, the body doesn't matter, as you can see. So very simple. We also have an injection vulnerability. I am not going to do this injection vulnerability right now because, as you can see, it requires to have a SQLite enabled. I am not going to install SQLite, but all of these labs are available for you to run on your own as well if you wish. Now let's do something fun. Let's talk about API documentation, shall we? If we open another API, some more API that we have right here, we can see, let's go to unrestricted resource consumption should have Swagger. Yep, it has Swagger. So if we run this, let's go one back and then go to OWASP API. CD to OWASP API top 10 2023, and we do Python 3 4. I think this was, again, by the way, this is all available for you. 04. If we do something along these lines and we go to, now I have to remember the URL specifically, for the Swagger documentation /API, I think /docs, or was it /API docs? API docs. Ooh. I need to do that on the proper endpoint though. Here you can see Swagger. Have anybody heard of Swagger before? Swagger is basically your documentation for your APIs. Now that is not too hard, right? Swagger documentation, really fucking cool. How can we use this? So first of all, in your browser you can interact with Swagger. If I click this open, it says try it out, and if I click that, I can get a base 64 encoded image data right here. Let's just try something. I don't even know if this is base 64 encoded, but here we make a curl request. We get a response image uploaded and thumbnail created. Fucking awesome, right? Now, how do we interact with this? We can import this into our Postman as well, where we can just go import and then we can click a link and we can click this. There we go. Ooh, not recognized because we are using the wrong URL. Format not recognized because we have the link right here. I'm a moron. So we should go like this, and then we should take this, and I will give you this link, by the way, but I do expect you to import this yourself. So let's try to import this properly. I think it's like this. Yep, this is the URL that we do need. And here we can see we can import this as well, a Swagger API with these image things that we saw before. We have a body with image data that we can submit. It's going to give us a response, could not send, error invalid URL. Why? Because that base URL is not filled in. So we're going to do that. Here we have it, that base URL. It's going to be the scope collection. So we go to the collection, we go to the variables, we have that base URL. We fill it in. Not hard, right? What we're doing. Nothing is hard. And for once we're going to click. Come on, there we go. Reset all. We're going to save this. We're going to go back to our request. We're going to send it over. And we see image thumbnail upload and created. So do this. Have some fun. I'm going to give you that URL once again. And let's do this in the chat. I have some more battery. This is a MacBook. This beast can go all night. Of course not, of course not. But yeah, I do need to plug it in soon. And the thing is, I always have my plug right here with me. I'm just too fucking dirty and lazy to do it. I'm a dick. Stop the mistreatment of laptops and dischargement where not required. Of course, here as well. How much knowledge is needed to be senior rep? Now I'm junior rep. What I would say to people who want to have more knowledge in this field is learn more about different technology stacks and how they interact with each other. Java is a language, but it can interact with many different databases, with many different APIs, with many different architectures of APIs. So learn all about that. That's a big one. Learn about how different applications are created and how they interact with each other. Oh, that's awesome, Cosmin. Then you will have one step ahead of most people because not a lot of people know about this. I'm going to leave now. I would like to thank you for the live and thank you for joining this crescent. Don't give up on your dreams. Anything is possible. Just one that definitely, Andre. Thank you so much for being here. You've been awesome. Everybody has been awesome up until this point. I can't thank you enough. If you guys have questions, don't hesitate to drop them in any of the chats, and I'm sure that one of the admins will point me out to them if need be. Holy crap. Holy crap. 1 second. That is not good. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something about this. Not right now, but I'm gonna have to yoink this out. It's not getting yoinked out. So I guess we'll just leave it hanging like this for now. I hope it doesn't fall. Fuck, my lamp is falling from the ceiling. Fuck. This is comical, dude. It's not too hard to properly grab this, of course, grab this information. and work with it, but it is important that we actually learn how to do it and how to work with Swagger. Because you will see this often. You'll see this return quite a lot. So, in my opinion, you have to be prepared for it as well. There we go. Well, I'm fixed. I'm a MacGyver. Damn, I'm fucking good at this shit. They should pay me to fix my own shit. Alright, my friends. If you're at this point, we have imported so far, we have imported Swagger documentation. We've learned to work with APIs. We've learned the different types of APIs. We've learned about the amazing tool called Postman. We've learned about the scope of variables. We've learned about the types of requests that can be made. I think you guys are already well on your way, but this is practice, 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 practice. I can keep on teaching you, but I cannot teach you enough hours for you to fully grasp what APIs are created, what they are doing with each other, how they can communicate with each other. So keep on practicing this. These labs will stay online. You can run this on your own computer. You don't have to run this through my server. You can just run it with Python. It's not super hard. Now I'm going to go into Crappy and Vampy. I don't know if you guys heard about those, but these are vulnerable APIs that have different types of vulnerabilities within them. How you exploit them depends, of course. We're going to try to start Crappy up, so I'm going to go back to my server and I'm going to go back to that API schedule. So let's see, we have normally we should have Crappy in here. Yep. Let's move over to Crappy. CD Crappy. Nope, that's not where we have to look. We have Crappy through Docker, I believe. Crappy through Docker. Docker Hub. So we can pull Crappy through the Docker Hub. We can just run it on the server, which is up to date. So then we just need to start this image. We have it locally. Start Docker container. It was Docker start and then the container Docker start. That's not what I need. Jesus, how do I start the Docker again? I'm not going to fuck around with this too much. I have a file in here for my Docker labs as well. So I'm just going to go in there, nano start Docker. And here we can see what we have to do to run. Where is it? The Docker run. There we go. I'm just going to cut this. I'm sorry, my daughter is again up. It's slapen. Naar bed jij. My daughter is up again. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, before you have kids, think at least 5 times. Think well, my friend. Alright. Cannot pull from Docker. Yeah, I've reset my labs, that's why they're a little bit janky at the moment. Not a huge problem, though. I think I need to go see my daughter anyway, so it's going to take a little bit less than 3 hours, unfortunately. But I'm gonna have to end it here. I would like to thank everybody who came today. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for participating as well. I propose that we just continue with the API next week. If we don't have a bootcamp planned, that is, of course. But you guys are awesome. You have been doing really well. And once again, keep on practicing. And I will see you later. I'm going to stop my stream Bye, everybody. Much